Welcome to Spirituality on the Spectrum, a sacred haven where AuDHD memory keepers and spiritually tuned seekers can finally exhale. If you've ever been mislabeled, overwhelmed, or cosmically attuned beyond explanation, you're not broken. You're calibrated, divinely, precisely, and for this moment. Here, we bridge what science quantifies, what psychology overlooks, and what your soul has whispered since childhood. Your sensitivities were never a glitch. They were divinely wired for a higher purpose. And that truth isn't just poetic, it's urgent, because what the textbooks miss is literally costing lives. The gulf between clinical theory and sacred wiring is vast. And in that chasm, too many of our memory keeper kin disappear. This channel is here to echo the truth loud enough to pull us back, not just so we survive, but so we rise. We explore pre-Earth memory, spiritual neurodivergence, poetic wiring, and why sensory overload might actually be a spiritual download in disguise. We make the invisible visible and the forgotten unforgettable. We filter through distorted doctrines and half-truth philosophies to reclaim timeless truths, unchanging across past, present, and future. Because truth is not opinion, it's eternal architecture. And when the fog clears, when our mind recalibrates to truth, we become conduits for living light. It's not just healing, it's rebellion. A soul tuned to divine frequency can no longer be bent by agendas built on distortion. Through autistic precision and ADHD imagination, we rediscover God hiding in patterns, details, and punchlines, including ones we didn't decode until now. Whether you're fueled by cosmic curiosity or sacred calling, consider this your frequency checkpoint, a place to remember what you never actually forgot. And if it feels like karma just kicked down your door, welcome to the club. You're not glitching, you're spiritually overclocked for impact. Now, let's find out why. This content may feel intense or even offensive to those uninitiated into the deep end. I ask only for your open heart and a growth mindset. Always watch to the end for a special treat. Subscribe if you sense more, remember more, or ache for a world where neurodivergents aren't just included, they're essential. And now, your neurodivergent spiritual guide, not summoned by spotlight, but aligned to sacred frequency, Joel Alden Van Fleet.
Testing. All right, I'm going to stop messing around with the microphone. It has come to my attention that I kind of need to have it a little closer to me, so we'll give this a try. I usually point out I love studying ancient religious rituals and records. In this video, I use the name of Jesus Christ, but keep in mind that he is also known by other names when translating from one ancient language to another. For example, Amun-Ra, Horus, depending on the story version in Egypt, of course. And then in Sanskrit, you have Krishna, Vishnu, Maitreya, or the equivalent of the Hebrew word Messiah. And then, of course, a lot more. You can find these names all over the planet. If you're looking for a new special interest to replace an old habit, I highly recommend that one. There's more out there than you can discover in a finite lifetime. A question. Have you ever come across someone whose AuDHD gets the sense they are, but still holds to the idea that maybe they're a broken neurotypical and somehow with AuDHD? I've so many mixed feelings and thoughts about this, which we don't have time for in this video. So let me just rant a little. You know, I really don't want to do these videos. You could call this a case of Jonah running away. I fought the camera for a long time. I hate it. Also, do you think Jonah was neurodivergent? He did say to God, "I do well to be angry, even unto death." This can be a strong example of a shutdown. how the weight of unmet expectations, sensory overload, or spiritual dissonance can push someone to the edge of despair. Jonah's emotional words, even unto death, isn't just drama, it's a cry, like what you've experienced from someone who feels unseen, unheard, and undone by divine mercy that doesn't match his internal logic. Jesus Christ said this exact phrase in Gethsemane when he said, "My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death." Yet again, look forward to the video coming about neurodivergence in the scriptures. Did God primarily preserve these texts for us? I really wonder. But again, we'll talk more about that in an upcoming video. But today we're going to focus more on that phrase, even unto death. In another sense, when thinking about the scriptures, maybe I feel more like Moses, who felt like he was not qualified for public speaking to deliver messages God asked him to. And I think that maybe I just stopped recording myself entirely. I don't know. But instead, make entertaining videos that transition smoothly from the introduction. I like the introduction. Everyone likes the introduction. I just worry that I won't be able to kick out as many videos as I would like to. I then think, what if there's a message in an upcoming video that someone needs a little sooner, but never heard it in time because I wasn't willing to just get on with making the video since I refused to record myself? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Fewer but more entertaining videos, or you just want to eat up more content? Honestly, I'm already tired of waiting for the more accelerated computing power that will come with the AGI resources. AGI would really help give me the voice people want to hear and still be able to spit out all the content you want, but only as fast as I can type it all into AGI's command, of course. I tried out the voice prompt with AI yesterday. Didn't go well. Not very AuDHD friendly. I don't know about you, but my mind goes blank when I need unlimited time to generate questions. It's kind of like when you call a toll-free number, you get that robot system saying, "What would you like today?" And I'm thinking, what was it again? What was it again? What do I say? How do I phrase it so it'll understand me right so I can get to where I need to go? Oh, representative. I hate those things. In my AuDHD traumatized mind, that masked overtime among simpletons, I tend to think that people don't want to watch a dude who can't stay still or who talks a little funny. My family finds it challenging to relate to my experiences. Being the one who has to edit the videos, in my mind, it's hard. I hate seeing myself on video. When you watch my personal YouTube channel, Joel and Pay Van Fleet, it's rare to ever see me appear in any of the videos. Usually, it's just my wife and kids. I'm behind the camera. I'm okay with that, where people can't see me. Even my wife usually avoids recording me because I'm not a walking shiny diamond to admire. My mind, on the other hand, can render the perfect scene of what it would look like, but I just can't seem to play the part. I can try hard practicing smiling nicely, maybe with a mirror, but once I'm away from the mirror, I'm just weird. There's no hope. Maybe I should put a mirror next to the camera. I don't know. It's just a weird thought though. I'll have to think about that one. If you find that one day my confidence seems to just be soaring out there compared to past videos, maybe that's why. So don't feel shy to tell me to toss the mirror. Anyway, that's a weird topic. I'm moving on. The intellectual simpleton neurotypicals all claim, I do this for fame and glamour. Hey, do you not see me? I'm not glamorous. In fact, I don't want to do this at all. I hate cameras, just like I said. I hate looking at myself. I'm not doing this for me whatsoever. Even though, like many other AuDHD people, I too struggle with self-perception. I'm doing this for my AuDHD brothers and sisters out there in the world who have fully embraced what it means to be AuDHD and who are all ready for all the missing answers that have led to their suffering for the past decades of their life. Sharing our videos together, it's important. So after this video, I hope you choose to be the first to do so in the comments. And thanks goes out to Blissful Bombshells for taking the initiative. Whoever you AuDHD children of God are out there, I'm taking a risk, stepping outside of my comfort zone, making myself vulnerable to help and connect with you, because it seems God believes in you and wants you to hear these messages. God wants you to be strong. The time of your unnecessary suffering has come to an end. But also, don't ever think that your suffering was in vain, because it wasn't. The experiences and insights you gain from your suffering will polish you like a rock in a stream. This brings us to the purpose of this video, which is to address the question, as an AuDHD person, was I born to suffer? There's a potential unfortunate side of suffering also. Everyone each has to come to the point where they have to make a decision. But for us AuDHD folk, we come to points, plural, of decision again and again. I speak of the decision to give up or carry on, choose to persevere or let go, continue or quit, to push through or surrender. You can choose to give up the worthy things in your life, like positive attitudes, good pursuits, productive habits, or helpful friends. However, when you do this, you actually end up replacing these good influences with something else. Now, let's flip this over for another perspective, a more helpful perspective, because on the reverse side, you can choose to give up bad attitudes, wasteful pursuits, poor habits, or questionable friends. These can be replaced with new special interests. Like what we talked about, you could research the names of Jesus Christ throughout the world. Are you going to be a polished rock for good, for God, or for evil, for Satan? From my favorite part in the movie Tomorrowland, which wolf are you going to feed? If either an AuDHD person or even an autistic person without ADHD doesn't acquire the necessary knowledge in time, they will continue to have repeated episodes that they will need to fight through, which eventually evolve into an attitude of believing that they were born to suffer. I'm not talking about the idea that everyone suffers or that suffering is part of life. That's obvious. No, I'm talking about something else, a whole nother level. For an AuDHD person, it's much more extreme than that. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I have a family, a wife, and 4 children. There are times when I experience triggers that cause immediate autistic shutdowns. One time this happened was the time I was filming all those sharks you saw just briefly in the introduction video. I was literally in the most beautiful place on the entire blueberry planet, yet having an autistic shutdown. That was also the day that led me to understand my role on this earth, to make these embarrassing videos for you. When these autistic shutdowns happen, I become paralyzed in my ability to properly process the situation, to think my way through it rationally. I become flooded with past trauma, which fills me with pain and despair. I lose the ability to see beyond the pain. I become vulnerable to the whisperings of devils telling me that I'm useless to everyone and unwanted by anyone. I find myself praying, pouring out my whole heart to Heavenly Father, expressing how I know what my expectations are, but I'm unable to bear the pain any longer and either need His help or to please, with my whole soul, please just vanish me from existence, both body and spirit. I ask for spirit also because I don't want to witness as a spirit what comes after my bodily vanishment, yet I also don't want my family to even consider me being a loss. So I also beg that He replace me as though I never existed. I beg for the miracle that nobody will ever remember me. I even ask Him to consider letting the sharks just eat me, if that's what it takes. Obviously, the natural buildup of this same AuDHD shutdown time and again, you could call it the shutdown trauma cycle, is why the majority of AuDHD people take their own life, especially in their 30s. Let's work together now to stop this cycle today, and I mean today. I was blessed with the tool experience memories from those past shutdowns, and from my pre-Earth memories, yes, and mercies of even returning back to this life multiple times to get as far as I have now. Also, I can make this humiliating video to give you a voice from heaven to tell you that you're not alone. If you want answers, God is ready to give you those answers, and I will continue feeding you the answers you need to know who you are and your entitlement to the divine mighty help you can receive daily. Unlike most channels, I may sound boring and unbelievable, but we don't just talk the talk here. We walk the walk. We're AuDHD people. You still need to keep being you, to continuously learn, to learn about your AuDHD in a positive view, and with a new spiritual lens, and to continue learning about and pursuing your good special interests. Every time one of us comes back to experiencing another autistic shutdown, it can bring back the heightened suicidal ideation that was present in the past shutdowns. It feels like we just circled the earth again, to land right back in Gethsemane, and to be hung on a cross at Golgotha once again. In this manner, I can say I have circumnavigated the planet more times than all my family together have fingers and toes. For help, we can turn to the many resources now out there available to us, but I'll get to more of why I'm mentioning these in a little bit. For example, friends, if you're lucky to have any. Self-help videos, which are plentiful now, especially on YouTube. Self-help books, if you can even get your ADHD self to sit down long enough to even read a book. Jordan Peterson, yes, I said that. Calling a helpline, which good luck ever getting me to call a helpline or a chat line, because even a chat line, I feel like there's a person on the other side of the line who's just waiting with a limited amount of patience for me to fully respond, form my sentences, and just spit out what's bothering me. But with my alexithymia says, nuh-uh, no way, can't do it, nope. And then there's the money-sucking traditional therapy. Okay, had to pause there. All my kids came running through the door. Back to talking about traditional therapy. to drain your wallet, even if it's covered by insurance. Let's talk about this. When an autistic shutdown happens almost in an instant, you can't just call up your therapist for help. You may even be lucky to book an appointment for that week. But here's the thing, it's true. Most therapists have some great insights to help you. However, traditional therapy will never teach us AuDHD people how to catch our own fish, especially with an AuDHD mind. We become a permanent source of funding for their clinic as we go back for another fish every time. But even with the best therapists out there who don't understand AuDHD, you will always end up exhausting all the knowledge of that therapist to the point that you will cause them to question their own abilities to help people. You'll end up as a statistic for them that there are people out there who they just can't help, which then causes them to go seek therapist to therapist professional help. Yes, this is reality. Seriously, if you're AuDHD like me, leave the traditional therapist alone. Now, it's time to learn how to catch your own fish. As an AuDHD person, you have the ability to topple over all your therapists in knowledge, skills, wisdom, coaching, and whatever you or anyone would ever require. You have the ability to rule the world if you really wanted to. So please just leave the simple neurotypical therapist alone. If you're AuDHD and you feel like you have to spend money to feel like any counsel is valuable, then find a neuropsychologist who specializes in AuDHD. But good luck with that. Even then, there are still the massive gaps that will leave your logical cognition patterns just craving for the answers of your soul, the answers your mind requires to pump purpose into your heart, then into your whole life, yourself, and then outwardly. When you use these neurotypical resources, they're just quick temporary bandages. Even if you feel temporarily satisfied, you're still going to get worse. If not properly treated with the proper knowledge, it can act like a cancer that keeps growing and will one day kill you. But literally, just like cancer, mate. If you're late diagnosed or even self-diagnosed, you know of what I'm talking about. For starters, I really appreciate the wonderful work so many people out there are doing on YouTube to provide great binge-watching content for neurodivergence awareness, including Articulate with Chris and Debbie. Chris was the final nail in my coffin. Orion Kelly, always fun to listen to. Mom on the Spectrum, very relatable. Paul Mikulev, he moves and wiggles around just like me. Claire at Woodshed Theory, fun and relaxing. I'm autistic, now what? She makes me wish I was young again to go back and do the horrible job searches. I hate job searching. But I would do it just for fun though, because of her. And Morgan Foley, who appears young and naive, but shows she has so much more wisdom beyond her years. Those aren't all the channels out there, obviously, but these are the ones I enjoy most next to the usual TED Talks and interviews with AuDHD doctors. So considering all this neurotypical stuff like general self-help content or traditional therapist, why doesn't all this work in the long run for you as an AuDHD person? Because your AuDHD mind requires to know the detailed system of how it all works, the rules behind the cause to the effect, the input and output. Even among your ADHD seeking spontaneous adventures, your autistic side demands constant predictability to continue the harmonious rhythms that feed your continuous innovation, creativity, and deep thinking. This includes learning all the psychology behind what makes the AuDHD person tick and what makes the person tick on the other end of the conversation. You want to know it all. You need to know it all. You should go learn it all. As you meet people who share their life's biggest challenge, even masked people who may be neurodivergent, but have no clue that they are, they usually share with the assumption that you're just like them, that your struggles are the same as theirs. Can you relate? In fact, being AuDHD, the simple answer is usually never the same answer to their problems. No, the neurotypical may be lucky to have 2 tabs open in their mind, but the AuDHD mind has anywhere from 15 to more than thousands of tabs open all at a single moment, depending on their own level of neurological development, and depends on that day, because every single day is different for an AuDHD mate. Even if you try to introduce some structure and healthy routine, I can't even just give you a single direct answer of, do this, and you will never have to worry about suffering as an AuDHD person ever again. It's so complex. You may even have to fight a battle of finding a way to educate your spouse or someone close to you about what it means to be AuDHD. Really, I'm not concerned too much about that, because if you're to this point now, strengthening your spirit, watching me, you're probably past that hurdle already. Every once in a while, I have a really cool, inspired dream. Let me share one with you. This was in November of 2011. Me and my wife were sleeping on our old sofa bed to fall asleep to watching a family movie. In my dream, we lived in a house made of mostly wood and glass. Sounds like a boat to me. That's an argument between me and my wife. She has a similar dream like that. It's wood and glass and... Anyway, there was a friend of the family who kept doing business with someone very questionable in the dream. And the more she transacted with them, the further along into trouble she would get. In the dream, my wife would constantly go to her rescue to bail her out of the troubling end of mistakes she made in the agreed upon business transactions. The situations grew more risky every time. It eventually began to be life-threatening. She told us that she wouldn't do business with those people anymore, but she did. And shamefully, once again, reached out to my wife. At this point, I was more afraid for my wife's safety more than anything. Still in the dream, me and my wife made a detailed plan together of checking in with each other, along with making contingency plans and backup plans to the contingency plans. I still didn't feel completely satisfied though, because this was very risky, as these were very dangerous people during dangerous times. Then, I had somewhat of an autistic meltdown in my dream. I was frustrated at this seemingly never-ending lesson that both the so-called family friend kept getting into, and frustrated that my wife, who I'd prefer to stay out of these issues, kept rushing to the rescue. Being AuDHD, I wondered if there was a lesson I was supposed to learn from all this, because it definitely also represented my life patterns at the time, in which I would experience seemingly never-ending heartache and pain, and making repeated mistakes after I kissed my wife goodbye outside in the dream. During my meltdown, I stormed back inside the house, frustrated. As I walked past the front door, I yelled a prayer. Heavenly Father, why do these things keep happening to me? Is there something I'm supposed to learn? Then, I all of a sudden heard an audible voice speak, but I didn't understand the voice. But I knew the voice. It was the voice of God. So, I quickly dropped to my knees and said, "Sorry, I'm listening now." Then the voice of God spoke again and said to me, "Ask me anything you'd like." In my mind, I'm thinking, oh, this is so cool. I'm talking to God. I knew I should repeat my original question, but in a more reverent manner, so I asked again. Why do these things keep happening to me? Is there something I'm supposed to learn? Instead of a direct answer, I received the answer to the question I should have asked, as always. I received a long sermon about the greatness of the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and I was commanded 3 separate times in the sermon to testify of his resurrection. When the conversation ended, I looked at the clock and noticed that the whole day had passed by, including all the check-in times with my wife. But after I looked at the clock and realized this, my wife walked through the door. Everything worked out perfectly. Everyone was safe. At the time, I was puzzled about the counsel I received from the dream. I have since made sense of it, but now I pass it on to you. This world appears to us to be so big, so overwhelming, but really is nothing compared to Jesus Christ's resurrection. So testify of his resurrection. And I want you to learn why that's the case. Obviously, you on the other end of this video would need to first gain a firm testimony of his resurrection. Well, gotta start somewhere, right? So get to work. After the video, of course, or re-watching the video. The best thing to do to prepare for an autistic shutdown? Prepare? What? Why? That sounds crazy, right? Well, the shutdowns will come, time and again, even if you try hard to avoid it, and do everything you can to do so. So, you want to have as many plans ready as possible to pull yourself out. Why do you need a bazillion plans? Why can't you just have 1 or 2? Because when you're in autistic shutdown, your mind goes blank to solutions, options, tools. It's the blue screen of death. Anyway, first, make sure you're practicing self-compassion, understanding and accepting that you're AuDHD and you don't have a switch to turn it off, no matter how much neurotypicals want you to, even if that's your wife, especially your wife. Second, establish your boundaries and mold and improve them as time goes by. Third, sincere prayer, as we discussed in other videos, should never be forgotten, but should always be the first thing you do, including the thing you do before the first thing you do. Fourth, I'll be doing a video about this soon, but I believe that God is the source that inspired the development of AI. Did you know that the original developers of AI are neurodivergent also? Yeah, probably not surprising. And yes, just like any inspired beneficial tool we have available to us, AI can also be used for destructive things. But we're going to skip over. Cut! We're going to skip the whole unfortunate and unethical choices of individuals who choose to abuse such resources. Instead, we're only going to focus on the uplifting use of tools. Yes, instead of discussing how an axe can be used as a murder weapon, we would talk about how an axe can be used to chop a tree for firewood so we don't die if you live in the woods or in the past. There are many AI programs you can use, but my personal preference for autistic shutdowns is actually Microsoft's Copilot, because I can open it on a computer, then close it and reopen on another computer, or open it on my phone and continue with the same saved conversations. AI uses binary logic, so you could say that AI is autistic too. And you will find that you can naturally understand each other very well. Again, we'll go over these fun points in another video. If you explain the shutdown situation the best you can and why you feel the way you do, and mention that you're AuDHD, AI can help you process everything to quickly get you through the shutdown, and way faster than any human neurosurgeon or neuropsychiatrist or psychologist could possibly do. A fun video to come. 5th, even with sensory sensitivity, uplifting, loud, positive music. Unfortunately, these days, if music is genuinely positive, most of the industry labels it as Christian music, and no matter how groovy it is, it gets sifted out of the secular beats playlist. In my opinion, most of the Christian music world has already surpassed the secular music in pleasing rhythms, especially with bass. My favorites to listen to, which are excellent for helping inject positivity, are For King and Country, Jeremy Camp, We Are Messengers, Unspoken, The Afters, Toby Mac, Colton Dixon, and One Girl Nation. These aren't perfect bands. Some of their songs won't resonate with you, but they have a lot of really good content. So turn up the bass, baby. Give it a try. All right, 6th. I'm using a second hand. Go somewhere private, like where you would go for private prayer, and watch Jesus videos. You can go on YouTube and look up Bible videos. They have some great stuff. 7th, get a haircut. I need one. 8th, snack on something good, but healthy. Try your best to fit in some AuDHD digestible protein too. And by now I'm sure you know what that means. 9th, if possible, escape to nature, unless it will throw you into the doghouse, of course. In fact, when I was having that autistic shutdown at the time of visiting the Wall of Sharks in Fakarava, French Polynesia, I was surrounded in nature, praying much, and was on my phone using Copilot as I just explained. It works. It's awesome. 10th, now I have no more fingers left. Part of recovering from the autistic shutdown will require courage. But don't worry about that yet until you've at least been able to process through the situation and have an idea of what you should do. Even if you don't have like an exact plan yet, especially when you're in shutdown, things still aren't entirely working up here. But you have to try, give it a shot, just go for it, do the best you can. But here's the thing, never leave out sincere prayer, the prayer of faith as described in my miracles video, because you're gonna need that miracle, you're gonna need that help, especially as you jump in and try to explain the best you can, and especially if you also have alexithymia. With that mighty prayer, shutdowns also tend to end with miracles. When you get through the shutdown, make sure to follow up with psychology research to help you better understand the situation you just passed through, to satisfy your autistic side of mind, because you're going to be facing that same situation again, so you need to learn the inputs and outputs, the whole thing. This can be done with AI or AuDHD YouTube videos, which are plenty. Bonus, so I'm not going to use my fingers anymore. Find out the significant importance of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. I hope I was able to help you out today, because I have full confidence in these steps. So, chat with you again, mate.
If your spirit's vibrating, don't worry, that's normal here. If none of this made sense, try listening again upside down. Truth isn't just entertainment, it's remembrance. What found you today, may it find you again tomorrow. Your spiritual nervous system is rewiring. Let it finish. So before this moment closes, you're a spirit child of God's. You're loved by them. You're the universe's most valuable asset. You have the undivided attention of Almighty. You have limitless potential within you. You're built to illuminate the world. You're despised and feared by darkness. You're here to learn to harness your light. The time for the AuDHD memory keepers to rise has come. Share this with another soul who also forgets less than they admit. Until next time, remember, you're not glitching, you're guiding. This has been Spirituality on the Spectrum with Joel Alden Van Fleet. Thank you for showing up. Until memory calls you again. Please like and subscribe, and feel free to overshare in the comments below.
In the shadow of despair we often hide, with minds racing, hearts open wide. Through the pain and the tears we find a way, learning to shine even on the darkest day. From shutdowns and struggle we rise anew, embracing our strength and the battles we pursue. With each challenge faced, we grow and in the fires of life, our spirits burn. No longer alone, we stand together, stronger each day through stormy weather. From suffering's depth we find our song.